Turn the attention now to the growing political instability in southern Africa and other parts of the country, of the world, should I say, and raising key concerns for peace and security in the region. In Madagascar, President Andry Rajoelina says he has fled the country amid a military rebellion following weeks of youth-led protests. It's a move that some are even calling a coup. At the same time, we're in DRC. They're facing worsening human rights abuses, even deepening the region's security crisis. What does all of this mean? We're joined now by Professor Kula Theletsane, the director of SADC's organ on politics, defense and security affairs, for insights on both of these crises. Prof, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it this morning, and a good morning to you. Maybe we can start off with the DRC, one that might be slightly more familiar to audiences as well. 7 million people are said to be displaced there. A ceasefire still failing at this point. Let's just talk about your honest assessment of the situation and even the peace process, which seems to be failing.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers. Yes, indeed. So if you remember, we had the summit DRC in the DRC. We also had the Luanda process. We had the Nairobi process, and in the end, the two processes were merged, and now under the African Union. And of course, you are correct. There are so many processes running in parallel in the DRC, and at the end of the day, one really gets confused as to which one to follow and which one is working. We really don't put them together and let them complement each other in solving the crisis in the DRC. And then in the end, we end up confusing those on the ground on what needs to be done. As I'm sitting here at the moment, I really don't know what is happening. But we at SADC, we have handed over the process, and not to say we are not doing anything, but we have handed over the process to the African Union, avoiding the very same thing of having so many parallel processes running in the DRC.
Is the fear then that, much like you've said, where you've handed over the process, that it becomes a lot of people washing their hands of this situation and hoping that somebody else takes care of it? Is this not meant to be a lot more of a joint scenario, joint pressure, joint influence by all those involved to try and end the situation as it stands?
No, you are correct. Even though we handed over the process, we still have facilitators in the form of President Masisi coming from the SADC side. So you still have the SADC and EAC that are still involved. So indirectly, so we are involved. But now we wanted the African Union to be the lead actor in the whole negotiation.
All right, understandable in that regard. When one considers Rwanda's alleged backing of M23, how do you navigate diplomacy in an area like that when member states are accused of actually fueling this conflict? Again, I say alleged, of course.
Yeah, it is true, and you are talking about a member state from the African Union, who is a member of the African Union, who is a member of the East African community. But we were hoping, when we saw the process that was undertaken by the United States, where Rwanda was involved. But I think the biggest challenge there is, if you look at that process, I did not see the involvement of the M23. And I think that is really a big gap for me, for them to achieve peace in the DRC.
And I mean, you've said you'll just read the reports from the UN, for example, and the United Nations saying that war crimes have been committed by all sides when it comes to this. What do you think, as SADC, then accountability looks like in a region where often, and many people would say, that impunity seems to rule the day and seems to be at the forefront?
No, you are so correct. But here is the issue: you are dealing with the M23. The M23, it is a structure. And what needs to happen here, if we want to solve this problem, we need to win the hearts of the M23. We need to bring them to the table to negotiate with them. And that can only happen if both sides are willing to sit around the table. We need to bring the DRC, we need to bring the M23. For us to sit here and complain about what the M23 is doing, what Rwanda is doing, you need to bring all parties together. The issue here is we go and negotiate with parties individually, and we are not going to solve anything. And I agree with you. There a lot is happening there, and no one is taking responsibility and accountability.
So you think a ceasefire is possible, or because of the lack of accountability, as we've just been speaking about, a ceasefire is probably far from anywhere being accomplished?
A ceasefire cannot be possible if you don't bring all political actors around the table. You can't only bring two and you leave one, or you bring three, you leave two outside. All of them must be around the table and agree on a ceasefire.
Yeah, very important. Let's try to move on to Madagascar, if you will. The importance of all of these conflicts, of course, being highly noted at this stage. But with Madagascar President Rajoelina saying that he's reportedly fled the country, as SADC, how do you see this one? Is this a coup, a mutiny, even a constitutional crisis maybe at play?
It could be a constitutional crisis, but I won't comment much on it, and for one simple reason. We, as SADC, we haven't met. We are only meeting this afternoon, starting now at 9 o'clock with technocrats, where the heads of state for the Organ Troika Summit will meet this afternoon to pave the way forward. And I guess maybe after that, then I will know what step is SADC going to take.
Yeah, I mean...
And how SADC is viewing the situation, whether it is a coup or what decision we make this afternoon.
Yeah, but Prof, the unrest itself has been happening for quite some time. You've had those youth-led protests happening for an extended period here. It's not something that's only just happened. Is SADC just being too late to respond to such things? Because this would obviously be of grave political disorder to Southern Africa.
No, really, it's not that too late. You need to understand when a crisis unfolds in a country, we don't just move in, we ask questions, we contact the country, and we were in contact with the Republic of Madagascar, and at that time, the government of Madagascar. And if the government give you the assurance that we have everything under control, we have no doubt not to trust them, and up until the situation gets where it is today.
All right, and with the questions that you've asked so far, because you've just said that what you would then do in a situation like this is ask that country questions. In the questions that you have asked so far, what is it that you have been told by Madagascar, by officials, by the presidency, and of course by President Rajoelina, if you've been able to contact him?
No. What gave us comfort then was when the country appreciated that, yes, we have a problem in the country, but the security forces, the country is in control. Everything is under control, and we will come back to you when things get out of control. But they assured that everything was in control. And as a sovereign state, we had no reason not to believe them, despite what you see on media, but we had no reason not to believe them because they have given us that assurance.
If the president has fled, I mean, one would easily say that there's no control, surely.
Of course, yeah, but this is the latest development. Hence, we are going to have a meeting and decide on the way forward. So.
All right. What's the risk of contagion, do you think, when it comes to this? I mean, could what's happening in Madagascar, unrest, inspire similar uprisings in other areas that maybe have a fragile democracy themselves too?
One cannot rule out that it might have a spillover effect. That one cannot rule out that. And you know, you have seen, if you remember the Arab Spring, how it started and how it unfolded. Yeah. One might see a similar thing in other regions, and I think that is something that we as SADC, we need to really watch closely.
Yeah, I think that is going to be quite critical to be able to do, because other countries are going to look at this and say, well, we also want to get our voices heard. Are you speaking at all with what has emerged as a very key figure in this, and that's Colonel Andry Rajoelina, who, of course, on the other side of the conversation in Madagascar here, is SADC engaging with him, or does it still not recognize, or does it still recognize Rajoelina perhaps as the head of state, and so the colonel would not be someone you'd speak to when you're asking questions?
No, unfortunately, at the moment, if you want to intervene in Madagascar, you will have to speak to everyone. So we haven't contacted them, and the main reason is I'm waiting for the decision of the summit this afternoon. As soon as that decision is made, I have quite a number of people that I'm going to contact, because even if we have to send, let's assume the summit decide to send a mission to Madagascar, who are you going to meet? You have to engage them before you even land in Madagascar, you have to establish whether you will be welcome in Madagascar. So yes, we will engage them when the right time comes.
Yeah. Prof, just as a final question, how do we stop all these wars, this instability, the infighting, the levels of protracted protests that we see across parts of SADC especially? Because it creates the kind of instability that infiltrates other areas, that spreads far and wide, and unfortunately diminishes the ability to grow for any of these economy. What is it that you think is hampering all of this, and how do we stop it?
That can be stopped if you take two case studies of the countries that you asked me about this morning, one being the DRC, the other one being Madagascar, without saying too much on my end. If you go to the DRC and go and look at the Sun City agreement, if that agreement was followed to the latter, I don't think we would have been where we are. Even if we would have been where we are, things could have been better. If you take Madagascar, if you remember, back in the days, I cannot remember the exact year, when there was a coup between the President Rajoelina and Rajoelina Manana. There was a roadmap. After SADC was sent a mission led by President Chisano, it was a very clear roadmap. But the issue here is, remember, you had a Sun City agreement, you had a roadmap. SADC is not there to hold a hand and make sure the roadmap is done. We leave it with them, and we assume that as a sovereign state, we have given them a tool, and they will now use the tool. But if we can use if we can use these tools that are given to us, we will not be having these problems.
Yeah, we're just fearful for any kind of loss of life, any kind of political instability that continues to hurt citizens. Prof, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on the AM Report.